Hi there again. If you watch our channel, you'll know that Tanya and I just returned from a month-long trip to Indonesia. We had a great time and we got lots of wonderful comments from younger Indonesians who watched our videos. Well, I say younger, well, at least younger than us. And many of our Indonesian viewers told us that we reminded them of their parents or their grandparents. And they were amazed that people our age were traveling independently and getting around their country on our own, taking trains and buses and getting here and there. And they were used to watching younger travel vloggers, but no one age 70 and over or 75 and over like me. So I have to tell you, their comments were very kind and very heartwarming. And they affectionately called us Oma and Opa, you know, Grandma and Grandpa. And this was very sweet. But it got me thinking about why we seemed so unusual. So today what we're going to talk about is what keeps older people, and specifically Americans, from traveling more once they get older. And like I say, in our case, over 70, over 75. And then what can they do about it if they do want to travel? There was an AARP study that was done in 2023, and it found that around 50% of the people that responded to their survey expressed a desire to travel more, but that they didn't due to physical, financial, or logistical considerations. But I think there's a bigger reason that older people don't travel more, and we'll talk about that in a second, and that's what the whole subject of this video is about. But before we get into that, let's understand that there will always be people who don't want to travel no matter what. They just prefer to stay home, and that is just fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We had a friend, well, he's still our friend, who once told us, he has a beautiful home, by the way, outside of Portland, Oregon. And he said, why would I want to spend money traveling to some hellhole when I can stay here in my beautiful home? Well, you know, he has a good point. And there was no answer that we could give that would persuade him any differently. It's interesting now, in later years, we do notice that he and his wife are traveling a lot more than they ever did. Well, they never really did, but now they do. And so that's kind of tells me something there. And the other thing is that there are about 49% of Americans don't even have a passport. So I have to assume that 49% of the population who don't have passports are not interested in traveling. And so if you fit into that category, you can stop watching right now and don't waste your time, because this video is not for you. This video is for the other half that want to travel, but for one reason or another just don't do that. So what's keeping older people from getting out there and traveling? And I think what the overreaching issue is fear. It's fear. Now, fear is certainly a valid emotion. It's what kept early humans from being eaten alive by saber-toothed tigers. It's what's kept our species alive, is that there's a certain level of fear. And as seniors, if we've made it this far in life, we have accepted a certain level of fear. We don't put our hands on hot stoves. We don't jump in front of a moving train. I mean, you know, the list is endless of fearful situations that we avoid. But unreasonable fear can really hold us back. And the internet doesn't help. I was amazed. I searched for YouTube videos about older people traveling, and almost all of them concentrated on fear. Titles, and these are real titles. This was incredible to me. Titles like, "Travel after 70 is a bad idea. Why you must avoid traveling after 70. Don't travel after 70. So that really started to bug me. And of course, I clicked on these. Maybe that was the whole point. But it was interesting that All of these videos were AI generated, and their AI generated scripts were almost all identical. You watch one of them and you essentially watched, 5 of them. Now, some of the actual information they gave wasn't bad, but I started wondering how many people just look at these titles and convince themselves that they're better off staying home. And all of this stuff feeds into creating unreasonable fear. So let's dive into those fears and how we can deal with them. Okay, fear number 1, and I think this is the biggest one, fear of medical emergencies and health issues. Now, this is certainly a rational fear, but it shouldn't be a showstopper. Okay, as we age, we naturally face challenges that we didn't necessarily face when we were in our 20s. We may have, or probably all have, developed some kind of medical condition at this point in our lives, whether it's hypertension or whether it's diabetes, whether it's high cholesterol or any number of things. But we usually take medicine or some other type of treatment for these, and there's no reason why we can't continue to do that when we take a trip. Just bring enough medicine. And if you're worried about losing it, not having a prescription, bring prescriptions along so that you can get them filled in another country. The worst that can happen is that we have found in some countries they won't accept a prescription from the United States. You have to see a doctor in their country. Australia was one that we recently found that, well, they wouldn't accept my prescription. No, you have to see an Australian doctor. Okay, well, am I going to bother to do that? Well, it's something you have to deal with, but don't let it keep you from traveling. Mobility issues. About 12% of Americans have some kind of mobility issue that makes walking or climbing stairs difficult. Not impossible, but makes it difficult. Now, the solution is to try to minimize travel situations where you're going to face those challenges. Cruising can be a great option for those travelers. And when we've been on cruises, we see tons of people that have walkers and canes and scooters and other kinds of things, and cruises accommodate those. They almost cater to that so that people that have mobility issues can get out there. But this also means that 88% of Americans don't have mobility issues. So if you're in that category, there's no reason to be afraid. Medical emergencies in a foreign country. Yes, certainly older people are more prone to sudden medical emergencies, more than younger people are. And for one thing, we might fall more often. We do fall more often. And when we do, it can be a big issue. But this isn't anything to really be afraid of any more than if we stayed at home. If you're going to fall down and break your hip, you can just as well do it in China as you can in Eugene, Oregon, or wherever you are. We have friends that were in China several years ago. So this is years ago, before lots of, technological advances. And our friend fell down and broke her hip and had it replaced in a Chinese hospital, and it was incredible care. They had, I think the surgeon that worked on her had been educated at UCLA. And I don't know if UCLA is any better than any place else, but it wasn't some country doctor somewhere that didn't know what he was doing, and the entire staff was there, and she had her picture in the paper about the wonderful care that she received. I'm digressing, but the whole point is that you can have medical things taken care of in other countries. And I have to tell you, some personal experiences over our years of travel. Tanya has broken her ankle in Buenos Aires, had to have that treated. She slipped on the ice about a year ago in Munich and broke her wrist. That was treated there. She's had surgery in Seoul, Korea. A couple years ago, I stumbled while carrying groceries in Batumi, Republic of Georgia. I fell down, I smashed my face on the pavement, and I cracked a rib. I had an inner ear obstruction once in Manila and had it treated. Tanya had a tooth abscess about a year ago when we were in Valencia, Spain, and went to a dentist and had a root canal. So things happen on the road just as they do at home. And unless you're in a very remote area, some sort of medical help is always available and usually at a much lower cost than it would be in the United States. Now, for insurance, okay, Medicare, of course, doesn't work abroad, but travel medical insurance is always available to help you alleviate your fears. So make sure you have whatever kind of insurance makes you feel more comfortable and less fearful. One of the videos that I watched about warning people over 70 not to travel covered all sorts of things that I think worry people or would worry people unnecessarily. And get a load of this. Here are some of the fearful advice that they gave. Always know where the nearest medical facility is where you're traveling. Who does that? I don't know. It's not anything that I really think about, but I suppose that's good advice. Research your accommodations to make sure floors aren't slippery, there are minimal stairs and adequate lighting. Who's going to do that? And how could you even get that information? Be aware of spicy and unfamiliar foods. Well, you're traveling in a different country. Of course, the food's going to be unfamiliar. And if you're anywhere in Asia or in South America, it's going to be spicy. Okay? Figure out what you can tolerate and what you can't. Make sure you know about any uneven terrain where you're going. You're going to Europe, there's going to be cobblestones. Okay? There it is. Try to limit exposure to harmful, infectious, and environmental contaminants and airplane exhaust. Be aware of the microbial onslaught. This was the way this was stated in this one video. Be aware of the microbial onslaught of public restrooms, airplane trays, and hotel rooms, and always carry and use cleaning wipes. Now, Tanya is very good about that. Tanya is a retired registered nurse, and she's also our safety officer in our family, so she's always wiping things. Everything is always nice and sanitary. So if that's a concern to you, bring those wipes. So this is all good information, but a lot of it just gets down to using common sense. And if you took a lot of this stuff too seriously, it'd be too scary and you'd never go anywhere. So, common sense. Cognitive fatigue and exhaustion. Now, this is a really good one, not to be afraid of, but to recognize. Because yes, of course, as you get older, it takes you longer to figure things out. And yes, you need more rest than younger travelers. Unfamiliar beds, jet lag, lots of flights, train rides, prolonged sitting, dehydration, all of those things can take a toll on an older person. But don't be afraid of it. Just be prepared for it and enjoy. Travel is so much easier than it used to be. There are so many apps available that can help you plan every step of your trip, not just hotels, but rideshare apps, local advice, websites that can make it easier for you to overcome cognitive fatigue. One thing that Tanya and I always do when we know we're going to a new place is that we research ahead of time where is the closest restaurant or place to eat or even grocery store that is close to where we're staying, so that we know when we get to that place, we're tired, we're hungry, we're disoriented. At least we know that on that first meal where we're going to go. Now, it may not be the best in the world. It may be not the least expensive, but at least we have that first meal taken care of, and it just sets the tone for making the rest of the trip so much better. Pace yourself when you're traveling. Try to stay longer in fewer places rather than shorter in too many places. Plan rest days to recover. Take naps. We love to take naps. This might take practice, especially when you're really excited about visiting new places. But once you get into the rhythm of travel, the kind of rhythm that fits your own style and your physical condition, it can really be a breeze. So maybe think about it this way in terms of physical exhaustion. If you were home, would you do lots of things every day nonstop? So think shopping, running errands, playing pickleball, tennis, taking a hike, whatever your normal routine is, would you cram all of those things into one day? And could you sustain that kind of activity day after day, week after week without rest? Well, I don't know, maybe some of you can, but we can't. We like to take breaks and take naps. Okay, big fear number 2, fear of the unknown and lack of confidence. And these two go hand in hand. And these can be broken down into a couple of different areas. Number 1, anxiety about navigating airports and entry into a foreign country. Now, some airports can be very confusing, and what immediately comes to mind are airports like Frankfurt or Amsterdam. They have multiple terminals. They're very big. Sometimes the signage isn't very clear, or you're tired and you miss seeing some of the signs. Well, don't be afraid to ask people for help. We have never had any problem asking someone. It may, once you find who might be a logical person to give you the answer, we've never had anybody refuse help to us. And a lot of times it's because we're old. Play that card. People don't expect you to be necessarily the sharpest tack in the drawer. Use that old card to your advantage. A big source of anxiety can be that first one of getting from the airport to wherever you're staying. And in lots of countries, there are all sorts of unauthorized taxi drivers who will kind of assault you as you're leaving the airport. It's just too much. And, some of them are, like I say, they're unauthorized. They may overcharge you. It's very helpful to, if they have a ride share, book your ride ahead of time, or go to an authorized taxi kiosk that many airports have now, where you can buy like a taxi ticket ahead of time. You stand in the queue, you give it to them, and you know what it's going to cost ahead of time, and it's taken care of. So do your research ahead of time, and this crucial part of your trip will go easy, and you'll be fearless. Concern about language barriers. If English isn't widely spoken where you're traveling, use Google Translate. It's often hilarious to interact with people using Google Translate, especially with the voice feature. We've had some very interesting conversations with drivers in countries where they didn't speak a lick of English. We didn't speak any of their language, and it was just a riot. We just had so much fun talking back and forth and gained so much more information that way. So don't be afraid to use that. Another fear of the unknown that often keeps people from traveling is a lack of a travel companion, and we understand this. This is certainly true of a lot of single older women. And it's not that they couldn't travel on their own, it's just that they feel more comfortable if they had someone with them to share information, to help give them confidence, to help each other along in unfamiliar situations. So if you're a single traveler and you don't have a travel companion, the two most popular options are either take a cruise or a group vacation. And there are so many small group travel companies that are out there right now that are perfect for singles who share your same interest and travel style. And those companies are a terrific fear reliever. We have single friends who keep booking these kinds of trips one after another. Everything is taken care of. Flights are taken care of, transfers, hotels, guides, meals, everything that an older traveler may either be anxious about or simply doesn't want to worry about. Final fear number 3, financial concerns. What if I run out of money or have unexpected expenses? Well, there's that old saying, take half as much luggage and twice as much money. But again, this is a fear that is easily overcome. For one thing, if you take pre-booked trips or cruises or anything like that, you have a pretty good idea of what things are going to cost. If you are primarily independent travelers like Tanya and me, do your research and see how much food and entertainment will likely be in your destination and how much your accommodation and transport will be. And so you plan ahead. Credit and debit cards are amazing things. I don't know how many of you viewers remember when we had to take lots of American Express traveler's checks with us. And then we had to worry about who would accept them wherever our destination was. And before there were ATMs, we had to find money changers who wouldn't charge us an arm and a leg to convert currency. It's so much easier now. The big unexpected expense that you might run into is a medical or emergency situation. Even if you have travel insurance to cover these expenses, many times you'll still have to pay up front and get reimbursed later from your insurer. So be sure you have credit cards with a high enough credit limit to cover something unforeseen like this. Other than that, not a problem. Don't be afraid. So, now, if I've helped you alleviate any possible fears that you may have about traveling and you are still afraid, there's not much I can do for you. Thanks for watching anyway. But what I want you to do is to really think about the joy of travel that you're missing out on as an older person if you just stay home. There are so many experiences to be had. There are so many things to see. There are so many people to meet, smells to smell, foods to taste, and so on. It's the rewards of travel. There's so many things to learn. It's immeasurable. So we hope this video has been helpful for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.